Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Shan back at recording again. Officially third week of recording myself for YouTube. Each upload, I think I'm starting to feel a bit more easy in front of the camera. But yeah, for the people who don't know who I am and why I created this channel, just a bit of a background for you guys. I started recording myself a couple of weeks ago, and I've created this channel and I call it a safe space just to talk about pretty much everything that we go through in this day and age as human beings. So it could be stuff that we struggle with: physical fitness, emotional health, mental health, spirituality, and how to find or how to strike the right balance between everything to be able to live in these crazy times, basically. So it's a mix of everything. I won't say that I have a proper niche as of now. I'm just trying to share my experiences and trying to listen to yours. The idea is to learn, evolve, and grow together. Anyway, getting back to the video. So today it's going to be a really short one, and I just wanted to talk about something that's been going on recently. And I'm going to be talking about these anti-migration or immigration protests that's been happening all across Australia. So people who've seen my previous videos, they would know that my background is Indian. I was born and raised in India, but I've been living in Melbourne, Australia for the last 6 years. And of course, I was just watching all these videos. The protests actually happened on the 31st of August. So for the people who don't know, there were protests all over the major cities in Australia: Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, Brisbane. And the idea of those protests was to basically raise voice against increased or huge amount of immigration that has more than usual amount of immigration that has been happening in the last few years, and which has affected the country in a lot of ways, like the housing crisis, inflation, the job market. So the idea of that protest, of course, people wanted to raise their voices and concern about what they're dealing with, and demanding the government to basically, what the people have been demanding is to put a brief pause on immigration for at least 5 years. That's what the general statement is. So that's what it's most about. That's the whole cause of the protest. Now, of course, when there's such a huge cause, you'll see different type of people just raising their own opinion and just trying to put out their own agenda. So we've been seeing a lot of rightists and leftist groups in these protests. These are neo-Nazis group that have been fighting for, or they're pro-white Australia, make Australia white again, or the white man should be back in power, and all these things. And then of course there's extreme leftists as well, who are just completely against these protests and saying that this is all racist. These protests are just, it shows what Australia is like. It is dividing people and it has no grounds to happen, etc. So long story short, there's a lot of opinions that are flying around. And as an immigrant living in Australia for the last 6 years, I wanted to record this quick video to give my perspective on things as well. First of all, is this protest even legitimate? Should people actually need to raise their voice against this? Secondly, what are my thoughts on it as an immigrant? And also, what do I support at the end of the day? So we'll talk about all of these things. And to start with, I think it's a democratic country, of course. Australia is a democracy, and people definitely have the right to raise their voices if they think something is not happening right, or if something is not happening in the best interest of the country. Personally, problems, yes, I think each country has its own problems. At the moment, saying Australia is going through problems would be not justified, because I think the whole West is dealing with some issues, and of course every country is dealing with their own problems. But yes, on a factual basis, there is a housing crisis in Australia. It's been extremely hard to afford a home these days. And there was this survey that came out that in these days, people want to basically be able to even afford a house before they are 36 years old. That's when they can actually think of affording a house if they've had a solid financial backing, which means they have proper savings, they've been working for a lot of time, and they have stable financial background. So which means that thinking about the Australian dream of having your own house and having your asset, it's not possible till you're 36 years old. So that's the base age. And of course, some people even struggle to buy a house even in their late 40s or even 50s as well. So yes, it's been really hard in terms of course, paying your deposit, and then the interest rates have been significantly higher. So people are struggling with their mortgages, people are struggling with their rental prices. Since there is such a huge surge of, yes, the immigration, especially post-pandemic, was higher than usual. Reason being, of course, the country was shut for a long period of time, and there was a lot of issues. There was a lot of jobs that were lost. They needed people to be back in the workforce, and a lot of people went back to their home countries because they were not able to support themselves during COVID, and all these things led to a lot of shortages in the workforce. And hence, once the pandemic ended, government decided to increase the immigration to a good extent. So a lot of people were invited, a lot of people were given residencies, visas, or whatever, were given the rights to work and live in Australia, which of course, and as per the people that were brought in, there were not those many houses built, of course. So I was just reading this article that I think in the last two intakes or last two financial years, there were 500,000 something immigrants migrated to Australia, and the total houses that were built were not even 150,000. So that's a huge gap. So for the fact is, there's more people than the houses and the infrastructure could accommodate here. They do not have the capacity, or they need to increase the capacity. So that's another, of course, another topic of discussion, that how can they tackle and how can they solve these problems. Of course, I'm not here to talk about that. The government knows better than me, of course. But it's a fact that economic issues are prevailing. There's inflation. Cost of living has gone significantly high. Rent prices, mortgages are skyrocketing, and even buying groceries and getting food from the supermarket is not the same as before. From what I remember, it's been 6 years living here, and I used to remember that back when I was new, I used to go to the supermarkets. I was able to get pretty much everything that my grocery haul is pretty basic, and it's been the same for the last 5-6 years. And I remember paying somewhere around $80 to $90, and now for the same stuff I'm paying somewhere between $130 to $150. Sometimes it could go higher as well, because you might need extra items too. But so having that said, there's definitely a lot of inflation going on as well. Increase in fuel price, increase in food, increase in basic commodities. So yes, there is a problem. People are suffering, and since it's a democratic country, of course, it's a democracy. If people are suffering, they have a right to raise their voices. So yes, people who are legitimately raising their voice against not so smart decisions, taken by the government, I think that's pretty legit. People should do it if there's clearly people are suffering. So if they want to raise their concerns, to express to the government that how frustrated or how annoyed they are, I think people have all the rights to do that. Of course, being an immigrant, this country has provided a lot. Australia is a great country, a huge land of opportunities, as I like to always say. Very welcoming, very vibrant, multicultural, welcoming of everyone. And when we talk about the Australians, it's mean everyone. Like people who are educated and who are fighting for the right cause. They don't care if you're white, black, yellow, brown. They are trying to stand up for the Australians who live in this country, who have been living in this country, who were born in this country, or who've been living in this country for a very long time. It has nothing to do with your race, your color of your skin, background, anything. So yes, thumbs up for that. If I had an opportunity to stand up, I would have done that as well. But I don't think. I've been living here for 6 years, and I haven't seen those struggles that people are actually fighting for. So of course, but I have seen a significant difference in the quality of life as compared to last 6 years. So of course I'm neutral, but I don't think people are doing anything wrong if they're trying to talk about these causes and raising their concerns. Now, coming to the extremists, the groups who are trying to push their agenda, that's absolutely wrong. Of course, anyone who's racist and who has racist ideologies, there's no easy way to say this, but they are just not good people. The idea for them is to create divide. The idea for them is to have this supremacy sort of mindset. They're not actually fighting for any real cause. They don't care about jobs. They don't care about work or prizes. At the end of the day, they are those people who are usually just living off the money that government gives them, which is Australians Centrelink money, which is basically the taxpayers' money. and people who are usually, they have nothing to do with these real causes. So they are just there to push their hatred and agenda, which is absolutely the wrong thing to do. So I am not with those people. Of course, I do not stand by that. And even the real protesters who were in the protest, I saw videos on the internet, and when they saw those neo-Nazis or those extremists come into the protest, they were pretty pissed about it as well, because they want this protest to be done in the right way. And all these leftist groups just watching these people protesting and saying that, oh, you're doing this because you're racist, is not right. It's high time now. It doesn't matter if a white person is standing up for legit concerns, and they're just shut down. They're just basically asked to back off because they're white and they're being racist. It's not ideal. Let's face the reality. Yes, there are some problems that need to be solved, and just because you're white and you're standing for something, not is it's absolutely fine. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. And as I mentioned before, it's for all the Australians, regardless if you're white, black, brown, whatever. So I think the protest had a cause, and of course I have nothing against it, even as an immigrant living in Australia. I also wanted to talk about this because a lot of immigrants, especially the people of South Asian backgrounds like Indians and Pakistanis, a lot of people have expressed their concerns on social media about how dangerous it could be as an immigrant for you to go out or be able to just be out and about. I was out throughout the weekend. I had events to go to. I was out and in crowded places. I didn't feel any threat, or I didn't feel intimidated. There was nothing to be scared about being a person of a color going out. And I just wanted to address to those concerns that, yes, of course, the media tries to show everything in that way, where even my family, my family who lives overseas, they were trying to reach out to me and ask what's going on. We heard about these protests, and are you okay? Make sure that you don't go out, or make sure that you're protecting yourself. I understand your concern because you're watching from a distance. But someone who's living here, I felt nothing but safe going out. I still feel safe. Of course, I know that you can't be safe 24/7, and you have to be alert if you're out and about, or if you're out at an unreasonable time. If I'm walking outside during midnight and I'm free and I'm thinking that nothing could happen to me, that's foolish of me to think. So, of course, in that scenarios, you have to be mindful of where you are going, and if you are alert about your surroundings and everything. But I didn't feel any threat, or I wasn't threatened as a person of color going out during that weekend, even living in a big city like Melbourne. So yes, if you ask me, there's people who have opinions, who have extreme opinions as well. And if you come across those people, and if you get into an argument with them, of course, things could heat up. But why would you want to put yourself out there anyway? Why would you want to speak to someone who has these sort of opinions? So, of course, maintain your distance from any of these. Sorry about the background noise, but maintain your distance whenever you come across any such people. That's what I always try to do as well. But then I don't think there's anything like you have to be scared about going out or going to work or traveling out. If you're outside, there's nothing to be scared about. It's a multicultural environment. People from all the backgrounds live in this beautiful country, and it is a great country. And the protests, yes, people have all the rights to fight against the legitimate causes, which we've discussed: housing, inflation, and job crisis, and all these things. But people who are bringing extremist opinions or extremist ideas that are, of course, not welcome. And I think media, it's a big time. Media should also be, instead of just showing all the riots and all the fights that have broken out in these protests, they should just try to show the right thing to the people, that what's right, what's wrong, so that one, the minorities living in this country, of course, feel safe, they feel valued, they feel welcomed, as they've always had. That's why there's such a huge communities of multicultural backgrounds and ethnicities in this country. And it's high time the politicians, the people on big positions should also come out to address concerns of these minorities. Just tell them that, of course, these protests are not targeted towards you, or there's no need to be threatened. The government will always look after you, as they've been looking after you at all the times. And it should come from those people because they're at those positions. So I think it's high time that, of course, people should address the concerns of the minorities as well. So I am definitely against these extremist groups, whether it be from the right, whether it be from the left, I don't care. But I'm all in for people fighting for the people raising, not fighting, of course. Those protesters were the most peaceful protesters you can come across. They were in groups, they were holding banners, they were just talking about legitimate problems that they've been facing. So I don't think there was anything wrong with them raising their concerns. And I honestly wish that government takes certain action. Man, even if it's putting a pause on immigration for a while, if that's what it takes to have that equilibrium back in this country, it is what it is then. That's what's needed to be done. Of course, immigration is a huge driver for Australian economy and they can never abolish it. And people are not even asking for it. People know that how important and significant migrants are for this country. This country has been built on migrants, to be fair. Everyone on this land is a migrant. It doesn't matter if you are white, if you're black, if you're brown. Everyone has come from somewhere. All of ancestors of people have migrated to this country as well. Even the indigenous population who are the Aboriginal Australians, yes, they've been the oldest group or ethnic people living on this land, probably from more than 50,000 years ago, but they also migrated. They also migrated from Asia or somewhere. I'm not 100% sure, of course. I would need to read more about that, but long story short, everyone on this land is a migrant from all over the world. So it doesn't really matter if you're white, brown, whatever skin color you have, you're an Australian. If you genuinely feel pressured and if you've been feeling the pressure of all these decisions that government has been taking, there's nothing wrong in raising your concerns. I think that is my take on it. And let me know what you think. If you're an immigrant living in Australia, what are your thoughts on it? Have you come across something that was concerning, that was alarming? Feel free to drop in the comment section if you had any such experiences, if you were out and about on the weekend and if you faced any sort of discrimination. Even if you're not a migrant or if you're an Australian, what are your thoughts on this? Feel free to drop in the comments. What do you think about it? And that's basically it. I hope this gives you some insight of an immigrant who's been living in Australia for not that long, but that's what I think. So that's basically it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.